Farmlands in China have been damaged by flooding, and this may result in increased food prices. Normally at this time of the year, the rice growing in China would be ready for harvest. Instead, heavy flooding has engulfed huge swaths of southern China, including more than 36 acres of rice fields that would normally be available on farms. According to some residents, the crops have completely failed. Also, many persons have mentioned that they have lost over $200,000 or $28,000 worth of produce. The rice was nearly ripened and ready for harvest right before the flooding. However, sadly, everything is currently gone. Surging floodwaters burst the banks of Poyang Lake in Jiangxi province in July, which destroyed thousands of acres of farmland in what is often referred to as the land of fish and rice. The wider Yangtze River Basin, which includes Poyang Lake and stretches more than 3,900 miles from Shanghai in the east to the Tibetan border in the west, takes up more than 70% of the country's rice production. For some farmers, the damage has been devastating. Not only did the rainfall ruin crops they were about to collect, but the scale of the flooding has made it impossible to salvage anything for 2020. The land is still underwater, which means that they are not going to have any harvest for the entire year. The flooding that affected most farms and 13 million more acres of cropland was about the size of West Virginia. It is the worst that China has experienced in years. China's Ministry of Emergency Management pegs the direct economic cost of the disaster at $21 billion in destroyed farmlands, roads, and other property. Some 55 million people, including farmers, have been affected by the flooding. Disaster is not good news for the world's second largest economy, which is already in a fragile state because of the pandemic. Beijing has so far been able to secure food supplies by importing vast amounts of produce from other countries and by releasing tens of millions of tons from strategic reserves. Heavy rainfall is expected through much of this month for China, and Chinese officials have warned that the flooding could creep further north, threatening the country's wheat and corn harvest. The flooding is already among the worst since 1998 and could worsen in the upcoming weeks. It is not entirely clear how much of China's food supply may be at risk, since the government has not released specific information about the current state of production. If the flooding is contained by the end of August, agricultural GDP growth could fall by nearly a percentage point in the July to September quarter, which would be equivalent to more than $1.7 billion in lost agricultural output. That amount is based on losses recorded in mid-July in 7 southern provinces that were hit specifically hard. Beijing has responded to the crisis with attempts to stabilize food prices and boost supply, including tapping into strategic reserves of food. Tens of billions of tons of rice, corn, and soybeans have been released into the market in recent months by the China Grain Reserves Corp and the National Grain Trade Center. So far, the agencies have released more than 60 million tons of rice, 50 million tons of corn, and 760,000 tons of soybeans. Thanks to the release of these reserves, prices for rice have remained stable. China is also increasing imports, especially from the US. They are committed to buying billions of dollars worth of American goods as part of a truce in the trade war. Thanks for watching the Learning Academy.